I'm going to tell you a true story tonight. It's 100% true. And I believe this story is a great example of how in our lives, how we can meticulously make plans, right? We got our short-term goals and our long-term goals and our one-year plan and our three-year plan. And then God will come along and go, we're not going to be doing any of that. And as scary as it can be, we know amazing things can happen when we do follow his plan, even if it is kicking and screaming. About 10 years ago, my wife came home from work. She was a daycare center worker, and she came home and she goes, "We need to talk." And as a veteran of the husband community, I know we need to talk is never a good thing. We need to talk is never followed by, "You need to be watching more football." It's never that. It's never that. And she begins to tell me about this little boy at her center, a little 3-year-old boy named Keegan. She'd been worried about him, and he was in a tough spot. He had a single teenage mom. She was having major struggles in her life. And on this particular day, Keegan's mom tells my wife that she has to relinquish her parental rights, and she has to put him into the foster care system. And my wife goes, "And I think we should adopt him." And an alarm of no's went off in my head. I'm like, "And I wish that wasn't true." Right? But in my head, I'm like, we already had 4 at the time. We're a paycheck to paycheck family. We don't have a big house, right? But I didn't say any of that. What came out of my mouth was, "You know what? I can tell this is important to you. Why don't we get the kids settled? We'll go to a restaurant and we can talk about it." And I know right now some of you are going, well, that was the Holy Spirit right there. That was the Holy Spirit working right there is what that was. But it wasn't. I told you this is a true story. And the truth is, I love to eat out. And I saw this as a perfect excuse to go eat out. And I wanted a public place to tell her no. So we get the kids settled. We're in the car, we're driving. She let me pick the restaurant. We live in Lexington, Kentucky. We have 1 million restaurants. So we get inside the restaurant, it's packed. We get seated in the middle. The restaurant server comes up. She's very bubbly. "Hi, my name's Shannon. I'll be taking care of you today. Let me get your drink order. Do you want me to bring you out some bread?" You know, in my head, I'm like, "Open with the bread, Shannon." Like, are people saying no to the bread? If so, bring us their bread too. So we give her our drink orders and she leaves. And now my wife is sitting across from me. And right before she started to talk, she whipped around and looked behind her and she looked back at me and she turned white as a sheet. It looked like she'd just seen a ghost. And she turns around again and she looks back at me again and now she has tears in her eyes. And I'm like, "What's the matter?" And she goes, "Shawn, do you see the older couple sitting behind us?" And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you see the little boy at the table with them?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Shawn, that little boy at the table is Keegan." The exact time, the exact place, and the exact location inside that place that we chose to have a conversation about this little boy, there he was. He was sitting 5 feet from us. And now my wife is just bawling at the table. And she's like, "What's happening right now?" She goes, "Say something. What is happening right now?" And I reached my hand across the table and I held her hand and I said, "I believe what's happening right now is that Shannon has forgot about our bread." I mean, is she back there making it from scratch? Apparently, it's gonna take a second miracle in this restaurant tonight to get some bread to this table. We obviously, we didn't talk about adopting Keegan during this meal, mostly because he was sitting 5 feet behind us, but also because it didn't seem like there was much to discuss. And so we left the restaurant that night with 2 very important things. One, we left with a bag of that bread, right? Because that's what I do. And 2, we left with the knowledge, knowing that God had a plan for us and that we were gonna have a 5th child in our family. And in fact, in the middle of the meal, I leaned over and I snapped a quick picture of him and I slid my phone over to my wife and I go, "Look, it's the ultrasound picture." Surprise, it's a boy. Hey, I'm Shawn Reynolds. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I was just ready to bawl and cry, and then you said about Shannon bringing you the bread. Man, that's good comedy. That is great comedy.
I appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's great to be here.
And it's a great story that how God has used even your comedy act to help people understand about the power of family and adoption.
Yeah, power of family adoption, and also when God reveals tough things to you, to step into it. Because I can tell you right now, we had 4 at the time. I had no plan to be adopting a 5th child, and amazing things have happened from doing that.
Well, amazing things have happened with us here tonight, with you being here. Please check out Shawn's hilarious dry bar comedy special and a lot more funny videos, social media links, and booking info. You might want to have him in your community or your church, and you can go to Huckabee.tv. We have links to everything about Shawn.